Welcome to Strategic Management course. In this video, we look into the procedural implementations of strategy. Procedural implementation deals with the different aspects of the regulatory framework that companies have to consider. In our case, we will look into Indian companies. Any organization which is planning to implement strategies must be aware of the regulatory framework within which plans, programs, and projects have to be approved by both the central as well as state governments. So the regulatory framework for an Indian company consists of the following: formation of a company, licensing procedures, Security and Exchange Board of India requirements, monopolies and restrictive trade practices requirement, foreign collaboration procedures, import and export requirements, patenting and trademark requirements, labor legislation requirements, environmental protection and pollution control requirements, consumer protection requirements, and government also offers some incentives and facilities, and we can get the benefit out of them. So the incentives and facilities benefits. Now, all these requirements may not apply to all the companies, but there are some major framework which is practically applicable to most of the companies. That is what we will look into our next few slides. The first one is licensing procedure. The system of planning rests on three policy documents: Industrial Policy Resolution, then IDA, that is Industries Development and Regulation Act, then Industrial Licensing Policy. In fact, Section 30 of the IDR Act 1951 deals with the registration and licensing of industrial undertaking rules. Under this act, a license is necessary for establishing a new unit, manufacturing a new article, substantial expansion of capacity in existing business, and changing location. Second one is SEBI requirements. As per SEBI guidelines, a company should complete the formalities for trading at all stock exchanges where the securities are to be listed within 7 working days of finalization of the basis of allotment. A company should scrupulously adhere to the time limit specified by SEBI guidelines for allotment of all the securities. As I said earlier, this requirement is applicable to certain companies, particularly those which are listed in the stock exchanges. MRTP requirements, that is the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, seeks to prevent monopolistic and restrictive trade practices and the concentration of economic power. MRTP Act requires that the substantial expansion which increases the assets of productive capacity or supply for distribution not less than 25% requires the approval of the central government. Export-import requirements. For those organizations which are involved in export and import requirements, the legal framework is provided by the Import and Export Control Act 1947. The Import Trade Control Policy Book, popularly called as Red Book, is an annual government publication which outlines the import licensing policy for individual industries and for different categories of importers. And last but not the least are the incentives and facilities that are offered by the government. Various incentives and subsidies and facilities are provided by the government for implementing the projects. This will definitely benefit the organizations. And in this role, we can see that the government plays a promotional role rather than a regulatory role. Hence, it is clear from the discussion that for successful implementation of a project, a company should follow the correct procedures. As mentioned earlier, most of them are regulated. The government plays an important role, and it is in the interest of the company to follow all the laid down procedures relevant to it to avoid any legal actions. So that was about procedural implementation. Thank you for listening.